podcast. So I want everyone to stand and let us pray. So in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So thank you, and you may now take your seat. And today we will be having an activity which is related for our topic. So I will be posting some pictures, and you will determine or describe that given picture and write up or give a brief description about it. So in this activity, you will be able to have that idea for what will be our topic for today, and you will be given additional points for our quiz after the discussion. So let's start with the first picture. So I want everyone, so what is this picture, or who is this person? Yes, Chela. Okay, good. So according to Chela, he is Lev Vygotsky, and he is a Russian psychologist. Very good. So next picture. What can you say about this next picture? Yes, Karen. Okay, good. So according to Karen, this picture talks about the development of the child. So it talks about the social and the cultural of um, of the child. So this is what we call social cultural. The next picture. What can you say about the next picture? Okay, yes, Jasmine. Okay, very good. So according to Jasmine, this picture shows an social interaction, which means that you are interacting with it with other people in the society. And the last picture, what can you say, or what words will come into your mind upon seeing this picture? Okay, yes, Shaina. Very good. So according to Shaina, this picture was all about a theory. Symbolizes a theory. So good. So everyone got the correct answer. All of you got the correct answer, and I guess all of you are already known for what will be our lesson for today. So I want everyone to conclude these pictures that I have shown to you, that I want everyone to tell me for what will be our lesson for today. So I want anyone? Yes, Diane. Okay, very good. So according to Diane, our lesson for today is all about Vygotsky sociocultural theory. Let us learn more about this cognitive development. So Lev Vygotsky, he is a Russian psychologist and the founder of the sociocultural theory. So he believed that human development and learning originate in social and cultural interactions. In other words, the ways people interact with others and the culture in which they live in shape their mental abilities. So he believed that parents, teachers, peers, caregivers, and society at large influences an individual's cognitive development. Learning at its roots involve interacting with others around you. So he asserted that learning was a cultural phenomenon, with children from different cultures embracing different styles of learning. That when we say sociocultural, from the word social and cultural, social means a social interaction with other people or under society, and when we say cultural, it is talks about the culture or the things that we used to do as part of our everyday lives. So in this theory of development, sociocultural means that this is the person's cognitive development is largely influenced by their surrounding cultures. For example, praying before meals. So the child were able, you teach the child to pray before meal. Another thing is that you teach the child to feed those animals. You teach the child to sing and to dance as they are learning with the surrounding that other people or your parents that you used to do. Another information about this theory is that Vygotsky has developed a socio-cultural approach to cognitive development. So he developed his theories at around the same time of Jean Piaget was starting to develop his ideas, and he died at the age of 1938, and his theories are incomplete, although some of his works or ideas are still being translated from Russian. So no single principle can account for development. So individual development cannot be understood without a reference to the social and cultural context within which is embedded. So higher mental processes in the individual have their origin in the social processes. So now, Piaget and Vygotsky believes that learners are curious and active participants in their own development and learning, yet they also differ in their views that how human cognition develops. So
Okay, next, I'll be discussing the zone of proximal development. What is the zone of proximal development? It is defined as the range of tasks that a child can perform with the help and guidance of others, but cannot yet perform independently. Learning happens because we interact with our environment. That means we do not learn because we have developed. We develop because we learn. In order for us to learn, we must be presented with tasks. The tasks in zone of proximal development are the things we can almost do ourselves, but still need help from others to accomplish. After their help, we should eventually be able to do the task on our own. So here's an example. Little Johnny cannot swim. If he tried to teach himself to swim, he would most likely drown. However, if Johnny enlists the help of a swimming instructor, he will soon be able to learn to swim. In this scenario, swimming would be considered to be within Johnny's zone of proximal development. Why? Because it is a task he cannot accomplish on his own, but he can accomplish with the encouragement and guidance from someone else. So, how does the concept of the zone of proximal development factor into the roles of today's teachers? Simple, the subject matter that teachers are going to teach our students falls within their zone of proximal development. Our students are able to learn the content. They just need guidance and encouragement from a teacher in order to do so. As teachers, we must be conscious of the fact that every student has different zone of proximal development. So let's get started with lesson plan that doesn't make kids bored and frustrated. The take-home message about this is that every student learns differently, but most importantly, every student can learn. They just need the help of a teacher or a coach.
Definition: the zone of proximal development is the gap between what a student can do ident- independently and what they can potentially do with the help of a more knowledgeable other. The zone the zone of proximal development is the distance between the actual development level as determined by independent problem solving and the level as determined by independent problem solving, and the level of potential development as determined through problem solving under adult guidance or in collaboration with more capable peers. In the zone of proximal development, the learner is close to developing the new skill or knowledge, but they need assistance and encouragement. For example, imagine a Sheldon has just mastered basic addition. At this point, basic subtraction may enter their zone of proximal development, meaning that they have the ability to learn subtraction and will likely be able to master it with guidance and support. However, algebra is probably root in this student's zone of proximal development yet, as mastering algebra require an understanding of numerous other fundamental concepts. According to Vygotsky, The zone of proximal development offers learner to the best chance to master new skill and knowledge. So, the student shall be teach subtraction, not algebra, after mastering addition. Vygotsky noted that a children current knowledge is not equivalent to their zone of proximal development. The two children might receive equal score on the test of their knowledge. For example, given demonstrating knowledge of at an 18 years old level but different score on the test of their problem solving ability, both with and without adult help. If learning is taking place in the zone of proximal development, only a small amount and assistance will be required. If too much assistance is given, the child may learn only to parrot and the teacher rather than mastering the concept identity.
So next is MKO or more knowledgeable other. So what is more knowledgeable other? More knowledgeable other is any person who has higher ability or understanding than the learner in terms of task, process, or concept at hand. And normally, when we think of more knowledgeable other, we refer to an adult, an expert, and a teacher. For example, a children might learn multiplication of numbers because the teacher teaches him well. So the more knowledgeable other here is the teacher. And the traditional MKO is an adult. For example, an adult is most likely to be more knowledgeable at reading than a young child. However, more knowledgeable other could also refer to our friends. For example, one friend might learn how to play basketball by hanging out with another friend who's good at basketball. And also, more knowledgeable other could also refer to a younger people or even on electronic devices like computers and cell phones. In conclusion, more knowledgeable other is someone that is more skilled than another person in a particular task.
Okay, class, before we proceed to our discussion, I would like you to guess the jumbled words using these pictures.
It is social interaction, ma'am.
Very good. Now, let's tackle about social interaction in Vygotsky social-cultural theory. According to Vygotsky, much important learning by the child occurs through social interaction with a skillful tutor. The tutor may model behaviors and or provide verbal instructions for the child. Vygotsky refers to this as cooperative or collaborative dialogue. The child seeks to understand the actions or instructions provided by the tutor. Often the parent or teacher then internalize the information, using it to guide or regulate their own performance. In Vygotsky's social development theory, it asserts that a child's cognitive development and learning ability can be guided and mediated by their social interactions. His theory states that learning is a crucially social process as opposed to an independent journey of discovery. Based on these pictures, it shows that helping children with the right amount of support and the right time can be tricky. So as parents, it is useful to know when and how we should support children in their development. So class, can you give me an example of learning through social interaction? Yes, Mira.
For example, ma'am, customs, beliefs, skills, and values.
Correct. Those are examples of social interaction. So, based on Mira's answer, his sociocultural theory declares that social interaction within the family and with knowledgeable members of the community is the primary means by which children acquires behavior and cognitive process relevant to their own society. Class, basically, it is through our interaction with others that we make sense of the information we encounter. Also, it is inherently social process, one in which we depend on others to help us understand the world. Social learning thus precedes individual development and it is unique to the individual. That's how the learning occurs in this theory. How Vygotsky placed more emphasis on social contributions to the process of development due to young children are curious and actively involved in their own learning and the discovery and development of new understanding or schema. Do you get my point?
Yes, ma'am.
If there's no other questions, that's all for social interaction in Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory.
So, scaffolding. So, what is scaffolding? So, scaffolding consists of the activities provided by the educator or more competent peer to support the student as he or she is led through the zone of proximal development. So, support is tapered off as it becomes unnecessary, much as a scaffold is removed from a building during construction. The student will then be able to complete the task again on his own. So, for example, let's say there is a kindergarten who's learning how to read and write. He knows all the letters of the alphabet, but he can't read and write words. So, no matter how much guidance he was given, he could never read a sentence on his own at this point. But with the teacher's help, he can learn how to read and write short words like boy, at, and home. So, another example is when infants are learning how to walk. So, they often start by holding onto clothes or hands of the adults or the older child who guides them. So the infants will continue to do this until they have enough more skills and strength to walk on their own.
Hi everyone, good day. This is Achila Marie Piala, and for today I'm going to discuss the Vygotskayan language. So before we proceed to our discussion, I know that each one of you knows who is Vygotsky, right? Yes, very good. So Vygotskayan language. Vygotsky believed that language develops from social interactions for communication purposes. Vygotsky viewed language as man's greatest important tool, a means for communicating with the outside world. According to Vygotsky, in 1962, language plays two critical roles in cognitive development. First is it is the main means by which adults transmit information to children. Language itself becomes a very powerful tool of intellectual adaptation. So, I believe that language allows us to share our thoughts, ideas, information to others. Right, children? Yes, very good. And that's the thing. You always remember that how language plays an important role in our daily lives because it has the power to build societies but also tear them down. Vygotsky in 1987 differentiates between three forms of language: social speech, which is external communication used to talk to others, typical from the age of 2, So this is the social speech. It is the external communication used to talk to others by the age of 2. Next is we have the private speech. So from the word private, it has the between the two persons, right? So private speech, which is directed to the self and serves an intellectual function, and finally private speech goes underground, diminishing in audibility as it takes on a self-regulating function and is transformed to silent inner speech. So, as what I've said, that Vygotsky differentiates between the three forms of speech. So, students, the inner speech is not the interior aspect of external speech. It is a function in itself. It still remains speech, even though that inner speech is not the interior aspect of external speech, but it is the function in itself. But it is still speech, and it is thought connected with words. But while in external speech, thought is embedded in words. So in inner speech, words dies as they bring forth thought inner speech into a large extent thinking pure meanings. So this is how Vygotsky differentiates the language and how important the language is, especially to us, because all of us here has different language. So even if the language that we had is still, it is the language, and it is part of our daily lives, and it plays a very important role in our daily lives. So Vygotsky was the first psychologist. So he's the first psychologist to document the importance of private speech. So, as you don't know that Vygotsky is the first psychologist to document the importance of private speech, because private speech class is very important because it has the communication between the two person, because it is private and you need to keep it on private. Like for example, in social media, but others say that please private message me, do message me between the two of you, between the two person, and it is called the private speech. And he considered private speech as a transition point between social and inner speech, the moment and development where the language thought unite to constitute verbal thinking. Thus, private speech, in Vygotsky's view, was the earliest manifestation of inner speech. Indeed, private speech is more similar speech than social speech, right? So the private speech is more similar than social speech. But this two speech, like the private speech and the social speech, has difference, right, students? So its private speech is typically defined in contrast to social speech, a speech addressed to the self, not to others, but to the self, for the purpose of self-regulation rather than communication. So there are the 4 levels on which the MQO scaffolds operate. So first is we have I do, you watch. Second is I do, you help. 3 is you do, I help. And for you do, I watch. Okay. So, for today's discussion, may I repeat that it is all about the Vygotsky and language. And let us all remember how language plays a important role in our daily lives. And hoping that all of you here are listening and catch my discussion, and see you next in a discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Karil Aying, and I'm going to discuss about the basis that the author used in contrasting the theory between Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky. Piaget and Vygotsky were psychologists in the early 1900s who studied children and developed cognitive theories based on their observations. Piaget's cognitive theories was centered around studying his own children. He believed children were active learners in their own development. Piaget believed that children develop their ideas independently of others. Piaget believed that children and adolescents were through stages based on maturation and cognitive development. As per Vygotsky, sociocultural theory was based on his belief that children learn through the social knowledge and cultural interactions in their experiences. Vygotsky believed children need social interactions to build language processes, and through these language processes, they develop the mental tools to learn. Social norms affect what they will learn and how they will develop. Social-cultural aspects will also affect children's cognitive processes. As to Piaget, cognitive development is already formed and driven by the way children adapt to new experiences. As where Vygotsky said, cognitive development is driven by social interactions and experiences. The basis that the author used in contrasting this theory between the two psychologists is universal stages of development. Piaget believed that children pass through stages of development in a sequence which is universal and not determined by gender or culture. As for the second theory, Piaget said that children learn through active self-discovery and awareness, while Vygotsky countered it that children need constructed guidance to learn and develop. In this theory, the author used the basis discover and social interaction. It takes place mainly to move a young child away from egocentrism. For example, a child may use a banana as a telephone, demonstrating an awareness that the banana is both a banana and a telephone. For the third theory, Piaget said that cognitive development is universally similar for all children, while Vygotsky said that cognitive development varies and differs depending on culture and time. For this theory, the basis that the author used is peer interaction and cultural differences. For the fourth theory, children will only learn when they are ready. That's what Piaget said. But for Vygotsky, children can learn at any point by having the two PD scaffolded and shaped. The basis that the author used to contrast this theory between the two psychologists is independent learning and scaffolding. For the last theory, Piaget said that language is a result of cognitive development, while Vygotsky countered it with language is the key to unlocking cognitive development. For the last theory, the basis that the author used to contrast this is schema or model and language. Thank you.